let's take a look at our top selections for Dan Illman, Mike Beer. Race number 8 at Laurel Park on Saturday is the $100,000 James F. Lewis III Stakes. 2-year-old males going 3/4 of a mile. Let's take a peek at this field. Some very nice recent maiden winners in here, and as well as out of the stakes ranks, Mike, it's an evenly matched group. Dalton, the number 4, well, he's hit the board in all 4 lifetime starts, and I think they strike while the iron is hot with this horse because he is bred to be a pure sprinter.
Yeah, he's coming into this race in good form. I do sort of feel like he's the horse to beat, Dan. I like this race, though. This isn't your typical 2-year-old stakes race anymore. Usually these horses come in right off of maiden wins, but all of these horses basically have run 2 or 3 times already.
And let's throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector. A horse expected to be on the lead has run 4 times already. That's the number 5, Singlino. He is certainly quick out of the gate. The 9, Lugamo, is also fast. Fearless Fly has shown some speed. Maybe No Sense can be up close, but I think Singlino will make the lead. Whether he can carry his speed all the way against this field, that might be a different story.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if he makes the lead in here. Maybe I'd be a little surprised if he won. But boy, he's far from impossible, Dan. I mean, as you mentioned, he's already run 4 times. He's run pretty well in those races.
The number 1, Texas Basin, you see him at the back of the pack. He's going to be hoping for some hitting up front. He's raced 3 times, twice on turf. The good news is his one and only win came in his one and only start on dirt. And we'll watch that race on October the 17th. At Belmont Park, and off the turf race. And we see him on the inside. That is Texas Basin going to rally to win this race.
Yeah, he's going to get a clean run up the rail after getting outrun early in here. This pace falls apart, Dan. He rallies up the rail. A first-time starter there, the 9, came from way out of it with the momentum down the outside. They both came from far back, and they ran 1-2 in there. I thought Texas Basin ran fine in there. I think the trip probably helped him win. He also had run better than it looks in his debut because he was very green in that race and tried a wide run on the turn. And then last time, I guess I won't be too hard on him for the Atlantic Beach. That was only 8 days ago. He didn't run that great in there. But this horse, he feels like he has a little bit of potential.
What do you make of them running him on turf, though, 2 out of 3 times, and then in an off-the-turf race the other time? Almost like they're trying to make him a turf horse. By successful appeal, he's supposed to be fast on the dirt.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like, at this stage of the game, it doesn't matter anymore because he's already shown he can run on the main track. He does have a little bit of turf on the bottom side of his pedigree. I guess that's why, at least part of the reason why they've been running him on turf. But we know he can handle dirt.
The number 2 is Ain't de Beer Cold, and that's what many of our viewers have been saying after watching some of our recent videos. But what can you do? When the Sapling 2 starts back, they tried a 2-turn mile, and he was pulled up and vanned off. And then he didn't have a great trip last time out in the Maryland Million Nursery. His buyers are a little bit light, but he does have some excuses for his last 2.
I guess he does. I don't know what your excuse is for the cheap shot leading up to this horse, but yeah, I guess this horse has a couple of excuses. I didn't think he was good enough to beat this field, but it'll be a big price.
No Sense, the number 3, is up next. He's won his last 2 races, including this start at Monmouth on October the 21st. He beat a couple of horses that are back in this race. You see Singlino, the 6, and the white blinkers on the lead. No Sense is down towards the inside. Got a pretty good trip here. The 1 Airport on the outside is going to come with a run. It is going to be No Sense, though, at the wire holding off Airport. I thought the top 2 both ran very well.
Yeah, I thought they did too. My take on the race, Dan, is of the 3 of them, the only one that I wanted out of the race was the winner. No Sense. I just thought he ran the best race. I know that the trip kind of worked out. He got through on the inside. I just thought he ran the best race in there. I really liked his maiden win prior to that. Of those 3 horses, he's the only one I want.
Morning line favorites, the 4, Dalton. And Dalton ran into a nice one last time out in the Smoke Glacken Stakes at Monmouth, going 6 furlongs. Let's watch that race. There was a good pace going on. Dalton was on the chase under a very confident ride. Now, he's made the lead in the stretch. He's drifting a little bit. The horse that's eventually going to wear him down, and they bump off each other a couple of times in the stretch, is the 5 horse Pick and Time. Pick and Time came out of this race to win the Grade 3 Nashua in New York with an 82 buyer. So it kind of indicates Dalton's 77 buyer from that race, and that number would make him very tough in here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot pointing to this horse in this race, and I do think he's the horse to beat. He ran very well last time. I like the way that he hung in there when picking time came to him, and he just missed at the end. I actually felt like he ran really well two back as well, Dan. He didn't win that race either, but I thought he ran pretty well in that spot. So he's coming in off of two races where he didn't win either one of them, but boy, did he run pretty well in both of those races.
Singlino, the number 5, the expected pace setter on the Timeform US pace projector, went gate to wire in a restricted stakes race over sloppy going at Delaware two-back over a track that I thought was favoring horses that raced near the inside and on the lead. Ran okay last time out. No Sense just might have been a little bit better.
That's how I looked at it. I mean, he did run pretty well last time. I just thought No Sense was maybe a little bit better than he was. I respect the fact that he has speed, and I respect that he feels like he's improving with every start. I just preferred other horses in this race.
Let's talk a little bit about Airport, who's coming up next, the number 6. We saw him just miss to No Sense in his most recent start. Lone Win came for a $40,000 tag, however. They tried 2 turns in the sapling. That was probably a little bit too much, too soon, and too far. Nice to see him get back on form last time out. And if this pace heats up, he can come with a run.
Yeah, he could. He ran pretty well last time, too. I mean, it's worth at least pointing out that he was away last from the gate in there. So he wound up, back off the pace early. He made a pretty game late run. I felt like No Sense ran a better race than he did, but this horse certainly took a step forward last time.
The 7, Kenny Had a Notion, has won 2 stakes races, including this effort in the Maryland Million Nursery. Beautiful ride by Jorge Ruiz, just patient. The inside opened up. He's already shot on through to take the lead, and he keeps right on rolling, Mike, to win by 5. This was the best I've ever seen Kenny Had a Notion, who is a stakes winner now on turf, a stakes winner on dirt, and might have been compromised by the state of the track, that inside speed favoring bias in his only loss at Delaware behind Singlino.
Yeah, he really ran well in that race. He did get a nice trip, getting through on the inside, but I don't, it's hard to watch that race and think that the trip made all the difference. He was much the best in there. And the horse that ran second to him, a stablemate of his, I mean, he had won his prior start with a 72 buyer. He came back out of that race and he won again with a 70 buyer. I mean, that figure actually holds up pretty well, I think. This horse is a major player in here.
The number 8, Extreme Mayhem, did some really nice things in his debut. He's by Byron, who surprisingly, for a Breeders' Cup Classic winner, is a pretty good debut stallion. Now, Extreme Mayhem, a little slow from the gate. I like what Cecily Evans did. It was almost as if Cecily knew she was on a live colt, gave him a few strides to get into stride, and now as we turn into the stretch, Extreme Mayhem, who had already made a bold run to get into contention on the turn, a bold wide run, well, he's on the lead right now, and he's drifting a little bit. He's a little bit green, as can be expected for these 2-year-olds, but he's never in any danger of losing.
Yeah, he ran well in here. I agree with you that I thought his rider did a lot of good things, especially keeping him, sort of out into the track early. It felt like she didn't want him to get over behind horses, but he made a really nice run, sweeping up to challenge the leaders about 4 wide coming to the stretch. And he was a little bit green. I would, also, Dan, just say when I watched that race, it was a wet track and, you have to worry about horses that debut in the slop. Maybe that helped them a little bit. I didn't even feel like this horse loved a wet track. I just think he won that race because he has some talent. He was pretty impressive in that win.
I think it's a good point because it did seem like he was climbing early when he got some kickback before Evans got him to the outside and away from the spray. The 9 Lugamo, I think, is an interesting long shot in here, Mike, at 8-1 on the morning line. He made his career debut, unfortunately for him, in a field that included Jackson Traveler, who's arguably the most impressive 2-year-old we've seen in Maryland this year, a Steve Asmussen trainee for West Point Thoroughbreds. He's come back and he's won his last 2 races, Lugamo, with no problems whatsoever, including this race where they stretched his speed out to a 1-turn mile, and it was no problem. I think a lot of folks were a little concerned about the distance here, this one being a son of Chitu. Lugamo had no issues with the distance whatsoever, and I think from this outside post, it's a great attack outside post position where he can get up close in the clear while keeping an eye on the inside speeds.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel like the pace might be the key for this horse, Dan, because as impressive as he was winning at a mile last time, that pace was very slow. He didn't break very well in there, but the pace, they just weren't going in front of him. And that allowed his rider to just move up the inside and sort of take over early on in the race without any problem at all. I feel like he's going to have to work a lot harder early in this race. But even as I say that, I don't know if it really matters because his win 2 starts back sprinting was also a pretty impressive effort.
Completing the field is Fearless Fly, and Fearless Fly is 20-1 off 2 off-the-board finishes, but you might want to take those races with grains of salt. After he won his debut going 4.5 at Parks, they threw him to a giant wolf named Jackie's Warrior in the Hopeful, and he was beaten 50 lengths. Okay, they run him back at Parks, and he happened to catch another nice horse, Quick Tempo, who came back to run second to a very promising Chad Brown runner on Breeders' Cup weekend. That Quick Tempo ran second to the Nyquist Stakes with an 86 buyer. So he's been facing some good horses, Mike. I expect him to improve. He's going to have to probably improve a lot.
He is. It is significant class relief, though. And you're right that the most recent race is the harder one. Obviously, you give him a pass for the Hopeful. The most recent one is maybe a little bit harder to give him a pass for because he just didn't run that well. But he spent a lot of time chasing Quick Tempo on the lead, and that probably hurt his chances a great deal in the stretch.
Really nice race on Saturday at Laurel. It's the 8th. It's the $100,000 James F. Lewis III Stakes. Let's take a look at our top picks. I just like Dalton's precocious pedigree. I like the way he battled with that next out winner last time out at Monmouth. I think he's going to get a good trip from close to the pace. Extreme Mayhem made a very nice visual impression in his debut. And listen, his buyer speed figure not far off from the top contenders. He's going to be a price. You might be onto something here with this horse.
Yeah, he was the one. I'm not against your horse at all, Dalton. I sort of felt like he was the horse to beat in here. But I liked just about everything about Extreme Mayhem's debut, Dan. And I'm happy to give him a chance in here at a fair price.
8, 4, 7, and 3 for Mike. 4, 3, 6, 7 for me. It's the second of 2 stakes races for 2-year-olds at Laurel on Saturday. Race number 8, the James F. Lewis III, has an approximate post time of 4:19 Eastern. Good luck.